Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Representative Huelskamp for sponsoring this important topic this evening. On National Marriage Week, it's fitting and proper that we would set aside this period of 1 hour to focus on the institution that is the fundamental grounding institution of the United States of America. There are various units of government. We here are in the well of the greatest deliberative body that the world has ever known, the House of Representatives. That's at the federal government level. We have 50 state governments here in the United States. We have numerous county governments and numerous cities across the United States. But the fundamental institution, the fundamental unit of government is the family unit. And the family unit begins with husband and wife. And this isn't, Mr. Speaker, a creation of the Republican Party. Marriage isn't a creation of the Western civilization or of the United States of America. Marriage as an institution was created none other than by the creator of mankind himself, a holy God, the God of the Bible. And it's stated very clearly in the book of Genesis that after God created man and woman, He then created the institution of marriage. And He created it for a very simple reason. It's because God had a plan for man for the future, and that was through the propagation of the human race. And so as we are here talking about marriage this evening, my colleagues who will be joining us on this floor, we're here not to condemn anyone. My parents were married and then were divorced, and then were remarried again. And that's a story that's repeated not just in America, but in families across the world. So we are here not to condemn tonight, because even though God creates an institution like marriage, and even though man and woman can mess up and not necessarily fulfill what God had hoped for, because God says He hates divorce, it does happen, God is also the God of a second chance. And He gives people that opportunity once again to go back into relationship. And so an institution that is meant for our good, it's one that in fact has been for good. Good for man, good for woman, but most of all, good for the children that come from that union. My husband and I are thankful that we've been blessed with 5 wonderful biological children. We've been privileged to serve as foster parents for 23 wonderful foster children. But you see, Mr. Speaker, without the umbrella and the protective element of marriage, that is the greatest security blanket that any child could ever know. To know that in their life there is a mom or there's a dad that's crazy about them. And many, many women raise children on their own in this country. Many men are raising children on their own. But we know that it's this fundamental institution of marriage that is the bedrock institution of this land. And so we're here tonight, as imperfect and filled with mistakes as we are, again, not condemning. We're here to lift up and support and encourage this wonderful gift given to us by the Creator, but given to us for our good and for the building up of this country. And I yield back to Mr. Huelskamp.
Well, Congresswoman Bachmann, I appreciate your leadership on so many issues. And one of the inspiring parts of your life to me is you and your husband's efforts as foster family. Do you have any stories to share about the many children that because acting as a family, as a mom and dad to these kids, sure must have made a difference in their lives?
Well, it really is something, and we had seen another couple in our church that were serving as foster parents. That's really what induced us to take on foster parenting, because our hearts broke when we saw the lives of some of these kids. We knew we weren't perfect people. We knew we didn't have a perfect marriage, but we thought we could offer something into the lives of these kids. One thing my husband said is every child needs to know that at least one person is committed to them and at least one person is crazy about them. And it isn't to take away from the foster children's biological parents. Families go through rough patches. Families have challenges. Marriages have challenges. Nothing is perfect. And we're not standing up here saying any of us are perfect, because we aren't. But what we do know is that a perfect God created a pretty good institution, and that's marriage. And that's the one thing that we felt that we could offer to our foster children. As an example of two very imperfect people in an imperfect home, but we were able to offer that model of what God had created, and that's bringing man, woman together, because we're two whole people, but when we come together in marriage, we're stronger than two people together. It's a very unique three-stranded cord. So I thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah. And as you know, there are many parts of the country where we are short of foster parents, foster families. If there's one thing you could say to a couple considering that, what would your advice be?
I would say, think about it. It's not for everyone, but if you don't think that you can do it, we didn't before we were foster parents. We took in one child, a beautiful girl, and we took her from a homeless shelter. And we had the experience. It was good. We got a phone call from an agency. Would we take another? We thought, okay, we'll take another, and then we got a phone call, would we take another, and we took another, and we got a phone call, would we take another. At that point, we didn't have enough places around the dining room table, so we blew out a wall and made the dining room bigger, and we just kept taking children into our home. And what we found that was amazing, what I would say to parents is, you will be amazed how your heart can, and it's all good. So I just encourage people to consider becoming foster parents.
Well, thank Congresswoman
Bachmann.
I appreciate your leadership, both personally and here in Congress, and thank you for your time this evening. Next, I'd like to yield to a colleague,